Hi guys, this is my first video for a very long time. Most of you will know why, some of you won't, and I don't want to go into it too much today, but basically I've had a minor operation on my hand and unfortunately it hasn't worked very well. It was only 12 stitches, so it took 7.5 minutes to do, but unfortunately it's left me in more pain and discomfort than I was before. So I'm spending an awful lot of time backwards and forwards to the hospital to try and sort it out, and consequently I'm not doing much work. But I really want to try and get back making a few videos, so I'm going to start today with a very simple one so it doesn't tax me too much. I'm going to use an old pair of clenching tongs and try and make some hot fitting tongs. I don't know if you can see, it's quite dark in here today. It's a miserable day. They've been welded up, these ones. They've pretty much had it. The teeth have sort of gone. I've tried sharpening them a few times. Anyway, so that's what I'm going to use. And I'm going to cut the tops off, draw out the reins so that they will go into the shoe, bend them around a bit. And I need to get them to fit, if I can. This is one of the smallest ones I do, a little pony shoe. So I need to go in there. And also, if I can, one of the biggest ones I do. So if I can get them so that they'll fit in there and I can hold them comfortably, then that'll be great. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I'll just have to make 2 sets. But I'm going to whip the tops off. But you don't want to take them off too close to the rivet because you want to leave a bit of meat in there so that you've got some strength left. So I'll take them off quite high up and then we'll grind them down, get them to a nice shape. So let's do that first. Alright, just going to whip them off. You can see by the sparks coming off that cutting disc that it's a good bit of steel. Lovely, lots of star bursts in there. Good sign of high carbon content. Do the other one. Yeah, so I'm sorry it's a bit dull in here, but it's early November and it's blooming miserable outside. It's pouring with rain and pretty horrible. And my lighting in the workshop is not up to much. I really need a couple more fluorescent lights up in there. I have asked the landlord, but he hasn't come up with anything. Right, so we've got them off. As you say, they're pretty sharp and nasty, so I'm just going to run the grinder over them, the flat disc, and just smooth them off a bit. I'm not being too fussy at the moment, just want to get the worst off so that I don't cut my hands or anything while I'm making them. I can always tidy them up a bit more later. Give them a bit of a chamfer around the edges. And so I don't want to take too much off because you want to leave a bit of meat in there so they're not going to fall apart. That'll probably just about do it. That's better. You can see that if it'll focus, which it probably won't in this light, but nothing fancy, but no sharp edges now. Not going to cut yourself on them. So I'm going to stick these in, draw them out to sort of like an E-head nail shape sort of thing you get on the end of your pritchel. That will go in the nail hole in the shoe. So I'm not going to split these. You could do, but I'm going to leave them together and hopefully be able to draw them out by holding the opposite rein. As long as it doesn't get too hot. Right, see how we get on. You don't want to get this is good quality high carbon steel. You don't want to get it too hot, and you don't want to work it too cold. You'll end up with cracks in it. So, you know, I get a lot of people say, oh, you don't use enough of your heats. Well, there's a couple of reasons for that. One is I don't like wasting energy of my arms. This blooming hand, if you can see, that's the scar down there, and it's really irritating. Never mind. Yeah, I don't like using up the energy of my arms, and also you don't want to work stuff too cold because it will crack eventually if you do it too much. So that's why I tend to do lots of short heats. Right, just tapering that out down towards a fairly stubby, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, if it'll focus. No, it doesn't look like it will. No, blooming camera doesn't like this low light. Get a bit closer. That's better. Just about sort of see it. Quite a stubby E-head type shape on the end. So this isn't going to take long to heat up. As I say, you don't want to get it too hot or work it too cold. I'm just going to bend that first bit one way and then the other bit the other opposite way. I don't know why I'm talking, it's pretty obvious what I'm doing. Getting that sort of a shape on it. That's just doing that is going to bring the reins in the middle closer, so that when you're holding a shoe you haven't got to spread your hand too wide. And that's starting to get a little bit hot. And although I've lost a lot of the feeling in my hand, it suddenly becomes hot. You suddenly feel it. I tell people it's like wearing a thick glove that you can't feel what you're doing, but the hand within the glove is blooming uncomfortable. I don't really know what it is, and nor do the doctors at the moment, but it's giving me a lot of grief. And I keep dropping things because I can't figure out how tightly I'm holding stuff. I think I'm going to have to put a pair of gloves on because that's starting to get a bit on the too warm side. I end up burning my hand quite a lot because it's sort of, I don't feel it until it's too late. And as a lot of you know, I don't like wearing gloves for doing any sort of work, but this is just getting a bit too hot. So I'm trying to draw this one out the same. I suppose that would be an advantage of taking them apart, is that you can lay one up against the other to make sure you've got them the same before you start bending, etc. Or you could just put a chalk mark on the anvil, draw it out to a chalk mark, and then bend them. So you could, actually that's probably a better idea, draw out both of them first to a chalk mark on your anvil, get them the same length. That's getting hot again. And then bend them. Of course I'm doing everything all arse about face. So this isn't going to take long. Got that a little bit too hot, but never mind. Drop it down the same as the other one, or try to. and see if we've got a pair, which we haven't, not quite. That one's a little bit out. I'll open that one up a little bit more. That's a bit better. You can see what we're trying to achieve. What we need to do is be able to get it in a shoe that size. Well, that is quite nice, but it's going to be far too wide on the big shoe. So we're going to need some more fiddling to narrow up that gap in the middle there. So I'm going to bend them out a bit more now. That's getting a bit hot again. I think I'll have to cool that out proper. I suppose really I should have got myself a pair of tongs that fitted them, but I like to do stuff by hand if I can. So we're just going to open them up a bit more and see if we can get it to work on the big one and the little one. As I say, it might not. You might end up with two different sets, one for the little shoes and one for the big shoes. But if we can do it all in one pair, that would be lovely. I'm just going to open them up a bit more. It's a bit better. So one still wants to go a little bit more. In fact, could do with going quite a bit more, because that's still not very narrow and it's getting hot again. Amazing how quick the heat travels up this steel, being so narrow. I didn't think it would. Anyway, see, that's going to be a bit too wide for the big one, so we're still going to have to do a little bit more narrowing up. Still, it's all trial and error, and see, that's the blooming thing I do. I keep dropping stuff. Never mind. Right, let's a bit of a close up. Open them up a bit more. I'm opening it up at the top, but pulling it around again at the bottom, because I need the bottom bit to be sort of upright, if you can understand what I mean. So it goes in the holes, in the nail holes. See, that's still a bit wide, so I might have to alter that somehow else a bit further up, so that these almost tight when they're on the little shoe. So let's see what happens if we can just get them somewhere in between. Just open them up from a bit further up, so we've got a longer I don't know what you call it, a longer, it's not really a bend, but anyway. Yeah, see, that now is just about a reach for the little set, and that's reasonably comfortable for the big set, big shoe I mean. So yeah, dropping it again, blasted hand. I really am suffering with this blooming thing. Never mind, cool them off. Yeah, you see, that's pretty nice for the big set or big shoe. Get a good pull back on that. Pull that in. Use it on several different holes. Hands not too far open. Yeah, I think that'll probably just about do it. And I think we'll just about get on the little one. Yeah, just. But it's a bit touch and go on that one. But yeah, that'll probably do. I don't do many of these little tiny pony shoes, so it's going to be rare that I'll need to use them on the little ones. It's more often I use them on the bigger stuff. Which it's not that often I use them on the big one or the little one, to be honest. So this is more the average type of size that I use. And as you can see, it's pretty perfect for that. So I think we'll probably call it a day at that. That'll do a treat, I reckon. So I'm going to clean them up. I'll let them cool down first. Oh, that's still blooming hot, yeah. Ooh, yeah, that's come through the glove. Yeah, so these things are just slightly tapered inwards to go with the pitch of the shoe, which I'm not sure is necessary or not, but I've done it so that they sink right into the fullering, into the nail holes. Right, I'm going to just let them cool down. I've just run them through the fire once more and levelled them, which I didn't show you on the camera because I forgot to turn it on. So I'm just going to let them cool down, and then I'll clean them up. They've cooled down now, so I'm just going to start off with a wire brush. Take all the muck off. They've been sat in a cupboard for the last probably 10 years maybe. I always like to keep a set at least as spares, just in case, you know, one breaks and you haven't got a new one lying about. But I've got 2 or 3 of these kicking about. I keep one in the truck as a spare. I'll keep a whole set of tools virtually as a spare in the truck. Now this is an unusual disc. It's hard. It's a bit like a Scotch-Brite, but it's hard. I don't quite know what you'd call it, but it's about 1/2 inch thick, and it's, let's see if I can, there's the name. They're good for removing paint and stuff like that. If you've got something with paint on, they take the paint off a treat without damaging the metal, but you can see they are quite abrasive. Not horrendously, but they just need a nice smooth finish on things. So I bought a few for a job. Can't even think what the job was now, where I needed to make some stuff a bit sort of a satin finish. And someone suggested these, and they worked a treat. They're good for just smoothing stuff off. So, done one side. Turn it over and do the other. You can see the difference immediately. Once they're all cleaned up, I shall give them a coat of ACF 50, which will keep them nice and rust free. I probably won't be using them an awful lot, because as most of you know, I don't do an awful lot of hot shoeing. Most of my shoeing is cold, but as I've got all the equipment now in the truck, the forge and all the anvil and vice and all the rest of it, I might as well have all the other kit to go with it. Whenever I used to hot shoe, I always used to use a carrying pritchel, which was just literally like a punch with a sort of nail shaped head on it that you just hammered into a nail hole. And there you go. Can't really see in this light, but that's given a nice, clean, satiny type finish to them. I don't know whether I could do with some sort of a spring in the middle of them somehow to cross the end there, just through there, to try and keep them closed. When you open them up and put them in the shoe, it'll sort of hold themselves in. But the amount I use them, I'm not going to bother. They'll do me a treat as they are. So there's a cheap pair of hot fitting tongs. I have done some slightly differently where I leave the ends on, but that's another video. So there you go. Thanks for watching. I'll hopefully do another one soon.